Hello there. So here's a video on how to get up and started with a VM on Google Cloud and how to spin up a Linux machine and connect to it via the GUI. So we're going to do all the steps, which sometimes causes a bit of confusion on how to do this. So let's go through the steps one by one and we'll be able to be at the end connect to it via RDP. You can use a Windows machine. I am using the Chromebook, Google Chromebook, as my base machine. So I'm going to be using this little icon down here to connect to it afterwards. So in the meantime, let's get the steps working and start off with step one, where we need to actually create the VM. So I'm in my Google Cloud environment. I've picked VM instances here, and I'm going to go to create instance. I think for the region, I'll use US Central 1A. So that is US Central 1A here. I'll keep the name instance 1, that's fine. Where I want to make the change is to pick my flavor of Ubuntu, which will be, so it's on Debian at the moment. So I'm going to go down to the Linux flavor of Ubuntu. And I'm going to go for, yeah, version 20 is fine. I can keep with that. Select that. The rest I'll leave as default. It's going to have an internal and external IP address. So all you need to do now is go create. Now, the next step, what we need to do, because we're going to be connecting from my home machine or any other machine that you have in your environment, the idea is that you're going to connect to the external IP address of this particular VM. So we need to make sure that the VM on this network, which is on the default network, has the firewall rule open to allow RDP. So what we'll need to do is open up TCP 3389, which will be the internal port coming into that environment. So let's go into the Google Cloud firewall setup for this network default. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to duplicate this tab, and then I'm going to go into the VPC, and then I'm going to pick the firewall settings. So that's come up now. So let's go down to, it won't be here. So we've got VPC and we've got firewall. So I'm just going to do that now. I've already done the rule, but I can show you what I've done and what you need to do on your side if you have not got that done at this moment. So you can see here I've got my list of rules already created, and I've got one called RDP rule. So I'm just going to go in there, and you should see I've got an ingress rule coming into the network of Google Cloud coming from anywhere. So there's the ingress rule, and it's got priority of 1000. Ingress is coming in, and we're going to allow anything from anywhere on the internet to come onto port TCP 389. So anything hitting this network called default can come in on 3389, which matches up perfectly with the external IP address of our VM, which is on the network default. So that works perfectly fine at the moment. So what I'm going to do now, because that's is in place, we're now going to ensure the VM has been installed with the XRDP component to allow RDP. So let's do that now. So I'm going to go into SSH. So we've got that coming on now. So this is where I do all my initial configuration just to get the VM organized. So there's three things I'm going to need to do here. First of all, I want to open up XRDP because I need the remote desktop access to this server. Then I want to install an actual GUI, and the GUI I can use, I'm going to use Ubuntu Desktop. And the third thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to change the root password. So when I log in finally by the RDP, I can use those credentials. So let's start with the first of those three. Let's do a sudo apt-get update, just to update all the packages for this VM. So it's going out to the internet, fetching everything. Okay, now I want to install specifically the RDP. So I'm going to do sudo apt-get install xrdp. Say yes to that. So this is the component which would allow me, the firewall is going to let the port come in, and this component is going to allow me to actually see this machine from anywhere over the internet using a remote desktop tool. Okay, that's completed. So what I can just do for good measure, just to restart the XRDP service. Okay, so that's done there. So now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to install the actual GUI on this VM, and I'm going to pick the Ubuntu desktop, which is kind of lightweight. So that should be fine to install. Click yes to install all the components. And you can see here this percentage is 2%. It's going to slowly go across. So I'm just going to pause it while it carries on doing all the updates. Obviously it's an OS, so it's going to be quite large with all the bits and pieces which is related to that. So you've still got a lot of activity happening. Obviously, of course, it's a full operating system we're installing here. So do bear in mind it could take a good 5 minutes for this to progress. So I'll pause that again. Okay, good. Finally got there then. So that's all installed. So now what we're going to do now is just change the password for the root account so we can access it via the RDP tool. So we'll do that. Let's find a password. Okay, so let me just sudo s. Test one does not. Okay. Okay, so that's good. So for just for good measure, let's reboot the machine. Sudo reboot, and that should be rebooting now. So that will switch off. And what we can see here, if I refresh it, we should see it going offline while it's rebooting itself. Now, the all-important thing, what we need to now use afterwards is the external IP address. So let's just give it a minute, and then we'll get ready to RDP into it. Okay, so now it's come back up. Let's have a look. So I'm going to go into my RDP tool. Before that, I'm just going to copy the external IP address. There you are. I'm going to go to my RDP tool here. Obviously, you can use Windows Remote Desktop. I'm using a Google Chromebook, so hence I'm using their own RDP tool. So I'm going to add in the PC. I'm going to put in the IP address here, which I've just copied off the cloud. Go to save. I can double click straight into it. Now it should take a minute to come back up. Okay, so it's showing this message to connect. It's coming on now. So we're going right over the internet here, directly into this box. Okay, Just go in again. It was a bit slow at that point, so I'm going to give it another go. Here it is. It comes up now. So I'm going to put in the root username, and I'm going to put the password on which I selected earlier. Obviously, you can do any passwords which you picked, and there you go. You got now the GUI coming up, and you should have access to the machine as you would any VM which has a GUI. So there you are. Have the GUI available. It will take a little bit of 30 seconds to come up, but basically that's the steps you need to do in order to connect to a GUI machine um, on your Google Cloud environment. I hope that was helpful. If you need any more videos like that, please hit the subscribe button. Please give a like, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.